More than half a century ago, we built the most powerful machine human beings have ever operated. It stood taller than a great cathedral. It burned fuel by the ton every single second. And it did something no machine had ever done before or has ever done since. It carried people all the way to another world and brought them safely home again. And here is the part that should stop you cold. We cannot build it again. Not because we lost the drawings, as the popular story claims. The truth is stranger and far more unsettling than that. We still have the plans. We simply no longer have the ability to follow them. This is the story of the mightiest machine ever made, and how a nation forgot how to build its own greatest creation, built by people who believed it could be done. To understand what was achieved, you have to grasp the sheer scale of the thing, because numbers barely do it justice. This machine stood taller than the Statue of Liberty. Fully loaded, it weighed more than 6 million pounds, most of that simply fuel. At the moment it left the ground, its engines produced around 7.5 million pounds of force, a raw power so violent that it shook buildings miles away and made the ground itself tremble. A famous news anchor, watching from a supposedly safe distance, gripped his shaking booth and shouted that the roof was coming in. One of the early aviation pioneers was told that in its very first second of flight, this machine burned 10 times more fuel than his own historic ocean crossing had used from start to finish. At the heart of all this sat 5 enormous engines, and one of them alone remains to this day the most powerful engine of its kind ever successfully flown. But that raw power did not come easily. In the early days, the engineers could not tame it. On the test stands, these engines kept tearing themselves apart, hurling white-hot metal past the men who cowered behind concrete walls to watch. The problem was a violent, unpredictable shaking deep inside the engine, a thing so fierce it could destroy the machine in an instant. And here is what people forget. There were no powerful computers to solve this. The men who tamed this beast did it with slide rules, with pencil and paper, and above all, by hand. They redesigned a single critical part again and again, testing tiny variations, learning by feel and failure what no equation could tell them, until at last they beat it into submission. Built by people who believed it could be done, armed with little more than patience in their own hands. Now, before this story goes on, hold a question in your mind. We tend to believe that progress only moves in one direction, that whatever humanity learns to do, we can always do again and better. But what you are about to learn challenges that idea completely. So ask yourself now, when we say we can no longer build this machine, does that mean we have genuinely forgotten how? That real knowledge has been lost? Or does it simply mean we chose to stop and could do it all again tomorrow if we truly wanted to? Forgotten or abandoned? Hold your answer, because the difference matters more than you think. For a few short years, this machine did the impossible over and over, without a single one of its great engines ever failing catastrophically in flight. It was, by any measure, one of the most successful and reliable machines ever built. And then, at the height of its triumph, with several of them already built and paid for, the program was simply shut down. The production line was closed. The reasons were tangled, but at the core it came down to cost, and a public whose attention had already begun to drift away from the moon. The most powerful machine ever made was retired not because it failed, but because we decided we no longer wished to pay for it. Earlier, I asked whether we truly forgot or simply abandoned. Sit with it now, because the answer is uncomfortable, and it is both. Here is the thing the popular myth gets wrong. People love to say the drawings were lost or thrown away, and that is not true. The plans survive. But a great machine like this is not just its drawings. It was built by hundreds of thousands of people, and the deepest knowledge of how to actually make it, the feel of shaping certain metals, The tricks of hand-building thousands of delicate parts. The quiet skills that were never written down because they lived in the hands and habits of individual workers. All of that went home each night inside those people. And when the work stopped, those people scattered. They moved on, they grew old, they passed away, and they took that unwritten knowledge with them. The factories that made the specialized parts closed. The suppliers vanished. Tell me where you landed, forgotten or abandoned, because the honest answer is that abandoning it in the end is exactly how it became forgotten. There is a strange and haunting proof of all this. Years ago, engineers who wanted to understand these old engines again could not simply read the manuals and rebuild one. Instead, a team went to the bottom of the ocean where some of these engines had fallen away during launches decades before and hauled the corroded pieces up from thousands of feet down. They brought them into modern laboratories and studied them almost like archaeologists, examining the relics of a lost civilization, trying to reverse engineer the work of their own grandfathers. The people who built these machines had been so far ahead of their time that their descendants had to treat their work as an ancient mystery to be decoded. If you have been weighing forgotten against abandoned this whole time, you already sense the truth. We did not lose a filing cabinet. We lost the living, breathing web of skill and industry that made the impossible routine, and we lost it not to disaster, but to choice. What lingers about this story is bigger than one machine. It is a warning that runs through the history of everything we have ever built. Knowledge is not safe just because we once possessed it. It does not live only in drawings and books. It lives in people, in working hands and shared habits and unbroken tradition. And when we stop practicing a hard-won skill, it can quietly slip away from us, even at the very peak of our power. We once built a machine that could carry us to another world. Then we set it down. And in setting it down, we forgot, piece by piece, how our own hands had done it. Whether we ever pick it up again is entirely a choice that still lies ahead of us. It was built by people who believed it could be done, and that's worth remembering. If stories like this one stay with you, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week we bring one more lost machine back to life and tell you the story the history books left out.